everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. Sorry if you hear a little bit of noise during this video. I'm really not sure what that noise is. I think they're doing like some kind of construction in the street, and I'm just hearing the ringing all throughout the house, and right here is the best place with lighting, so we're just gonna have to deal. So welcome to my March wrap-up. March was an interesting reading month for me. I actually was able to get to more books than I thought I would, and there were some good ones and some meh ones and a couple of DNFs, so let's get into my reading wrap-up. So the first book that I finished in the month of March was Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett. And after a rough end to February, this was just the book I needed. It's very fast-paced, and it has Kelly Garrett's signature brand of mystery that involves humor that I really enjoy, and just characters that leap off the page. If you've read her Detective by Day series, it definitely has similar vibes. It like reminds me of the mysteries of the 2000s, where we had like these amateur sleuth stories with these very voicey heroines and almost like a rom-com feel to it at times. So I definitely appreciated getting into another one of her stories. I also like the entertainment industry background that this was set in, because there were characters that like resembled real life people. Like you could tell where she was inspired and pulled little pieces of them, and that was fun, just like figuring out who was who. Like this one follows Lena Scott, and she was actually inspired by the true life story of like this socialite who was the daughter of a filmmaker who was found dead on a playground in the Bronx. And I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but I know this girl was best friends with E.J. Johnson. And it was just tragic because I can't remember if they ever convicted her killers, but at first, like, it was just looking like an overdose. They were going to write it off as an overdose, and then after pushing, that's when everybody started realizing, like, no, there's some foul play involved. So this kind of starts off very similar to that. So our main character, Lena, finds out that her sister has died of an apparent overdose. They found her body like on a playground in the Bronx, but Lena's having trouble believing that her sister would have died of a heroin overdose. She's like, my sister would have never done heroin. She doesn't like needles. She doesn't like that particular type of drug. It just doesn't make any sense. And everybody's like, well, you know, you've been gone for a few years. You haven't talked to her. You don't know what she's like now. You don't know how bad things got. And then on top of that, Lena is estranged from her father. She's been estranged from her father pretty much her whole life. And the book really does get into like those issues with her father and his cheating ways, and her mother and how she reacted, and having to ask like family the hard questions that you don't want to ask, because we're so used to being told to stay in a child's place that you don't ever question these things. And Lena, as an adult, still never found the courage to kind of question these things. So in addition to a fun, fast-paced mystery involving like a very humorous heroine, you get that and you get that like family aspect too that was very compelling. I really like how Kelly Garrett blends pop culture into her stories without it feeling overwhelming, because I've read plenty of books where like there was pop culture and it just like hit you in the face hardcore, and it felt really dated and it felt very heavy-handed, and she somehow manages to always do it flawlessly. So I really appreciated that. I don't want to give you too much about Like a Sister, but if you're looking for a fast-paced mystery, I definitely recommend it. It was one of the books that we discussed for the Crime Readers of Color book club, which is run by Cachet from Shay with the Hobbies and Bree from The Lockbooktician. So I will leave their channels below if you want to check them out. So the next book that I read was The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa, and I actually really did like The Worst Best Man when I read it a few years ago. So I was excited to get the arc because I did find Dean's character funny in that book. With The Wedding Crasher, I did not like it as much as The Worst Best Man. She definitely leaned hard into the rom-com aspect, but it was like too much for me. Like, there was a lot of pop culture to the point where I'm like, she just walked us through every movie and show and song she listened to during like her time in quarantine. Like, it just felt so heavy-handed, and like definitely a lot of pushing like the jokes, and it just wasn't funny. It didn't flow well to hear them like every few pages was "Love is blind," "When Sarah met Hallie," like it had that obligatory Magic Mike karaoke scene, and that was one of the scenes that felt the most out of place for me. So you're following Dean, who is like this uptight like attorney who is trying so hard to be partner, and like they're going around showing off this person who will be potentially joining their firm. And I'm like, they literally were just at a work thing. Why is he going like all Magic Mike on the karaoke? And then it was after like 2 shots. Like, come on, it just didn't even make any sense. And it was just so not his personality. And it had the fake dating aspect here, but the fake dating part was very like thin reasons. Like, they didn't really it didn't, because they like really was forced and didn't make sense. So the whole thing was that the way the book starts off is that Dean is trying to jump into this marriage of convenience because he has it set that you have to marry by a certain time as a part of his plan. He doesn't care if he doesn't love this woman or not. They are going to make it work. So Solange, which is our female MC, finds out that the bride that Dean is set to marry is talking to her lover on the day of the wedding, and she exposes it at the ceremony. And the bride's like, yeah, I can't be with him, and calls up the wedding. So like a few weeks later, he jumps into this fake relationship, like, and so of course his coworkers don't buy it and are trying to expose him for it because it makes no sense. You were just engaged to be married, and all of a sudden you're saying that you're in love with this woman who's supposedly been a longtime friend. Like, the reason for why they had to fake date in the first place was just so forced, and like, of course it made no sense. I did like the Solange's family, like her mother and her aunts and her cousins, etc. And I appreciated their presence. And that was like the only thing like I really enjoyed. Like I said, a lot of the jokes were just so heavy-handed, and a lot of things felt really forced. So that was The Wedding Crasher. It wasn't one of my best reads. So my next read was Death by Dumpling, which is by Vivian Chen, and it is the first in the Noodle Shop mystery series. It was a good read. Nothing was really surprising for me because I have read other books in the Noodle Shop series. I just never read the first one. So I read like book 2, 3, and I think 5. And then I think maybe 6. Like, I've read quite a few books in this series because it's a cozy mystery. You can pretty much read those out of order and know what you're talking about. So I was already familiar with everybody in this. It was just more like seeing their origin story about like how they came together. And when I read the other books, nothing that was in the first book was really spoiled. So this one was making me hungry so many times because it was just like a quick, light read. I did read most of it on Kindle, and then I like listened to the audiobook at the very end. And I felt like it was very easy to wrap up mystery. I really enjoyed the family aspects. There was a little humor here and there. And, you know, Lana is a fun protagonist. The crew at the Asian Village Plaza is full of interesting characters. And I think if you like cozy mysteries, you're going to enjoy this one. I find lately that cozy mysteries can either be hit or miss with me. And I like it when it's not so overly demure and cutesy, and I read and I'm not like other girls and this and that some are really falling into. So when you give me like a standout heroine like this, I really appreciate it. I read The Witchery, which if you watch my reading vlog about that, you'll kind of know my thoughts. I am still thinking about doing a standalone review that I would end up releasing around the release date, like maybe right before or right after. This one had a lot of potential. I was very excited for it, but it ended up falling like very flat for me. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. There was a lot that they could have done with the witchy magic school that they didn't do. I felt like for a book with 6 POVs, there needed to be a lot more distinct voices between the characters, and I feel like we could have really narrowed down the focus to just a few characters rather than so many, just because it didn't feel like most of the story threads that were started were wrapped up neatly. And this is not a series, so I don't know why so many things were focused on if we weren't going to have like a satisfying closure to it. So yeah, I'll just leave my review link below because I really went into detail on as to what this book was about in that. So I did a reread of Magic Dark, Magic Divine by A.J. Locke for a book club, and it was interesting. This time I was listening to it. I actually don't recommend the audiobook because it did read kind of flat. I feel like it's just better in this case to read the ebook, and I have already done a solo review on my channel, so I will link that as well in case you're interested. So the next book that I read was Don't Go Baking My Heart by Angie Peltier, and this was a book that I really enjoyed. I actually really enjoyed her first book, Sweet Hand, and I introduced it to Jess Owens, and then she just kind of made it her whole personality and took it away from being my favorite book to the point where people think I got the wreck from her. But I'm gonna let her have it because I actually ended up liking Don't Go Baking My Heart a little bit more. So Don't Go Baking My Heart follows Charisse's friend Reba and Kieran's brother Devon. Devon is like a little bit older than that group, so he never really like interacted with their crew. And he's a workaholic. He doesn't like to go out and party. Even when he does go to parties, he's like that person up against the wall, not vibing to the music. We call them stush in Trinidadian culture. So like this is set in Trinidad and Tobago, and I found that like Sweet Hand, it shows even more of the island, which I really appreciate it. Like we get a scene of them on vacation at the beach, we see them around like Queen Savannah and different places on the island. So if that's something you're interested in and you like to see a lot of sites when you're reading stories set in other cultures, like it has that aspect for you too. But Reba is very, very loud. She wears these really bright colors. She wears really skimpy outfits and just kind of marches to the beat of her own drum. Like when I looked at the cover, it kept reminding me of Nessa Preppy, who is the Soca artist, and she was rocking the pink hair for like a good year. And like a lot of the stuff people kind of say about Reba, I like would always see people say about her too, like, oh my gosh, she's too loud and brash and this and that, because, you know, contrary to popular belief, because they have carnival, Trinity people are like really conservative. So you're not allowed to dress a certain way, you're not allowed to act a certain way. People judge you a lot. And I like that Reba is the type of character who is going against the grain and breaking the mold no matter what people say about her or not. And I really liked how her family was involved in the story, because she constantly feels like they're trying to change her, and her mother like sees Devon as this really great option for her because unlike those little boys that she's messing with up the street, he has his life together, he has a house, he has a good job, he knows that he wants to go further, and it kind of counteracts her who she's like not sure where she wants to go career-wise. She just doesn't want like the strict office setting and to be like perfect like her sister. So they get together to work on a baking competition that is going on at Devon's job. He wanted to ask Charisse, but Charisse and Kieran were going off on a little vacation off the island, so that wasn't an option. And Reba feels like she can really add some fun to Devon's life and makes a bet with her friends that she can get him to fall for her. And there were just a lot of really fun, sweet moments that I really enjoyed. So the next one that I read was Hummus and Homicide, which is the first in the Kebab Kitchen mystery series by Tina Kashian. And it follows Lucy, who is from this big Armenian family. She quits her job in Philadelphia and goes back to her Jersey town, like near the coast, and it was a lot of fun, like as far as the family. They were big and bold and very Jersey, and I thought everybody kind of stood out, but I don't think overall the story stands out among like all the Cozy series. It's like just very like standard, but I am interested in reading more of it and getting to know the people more because it was a little bit different. I hadn't read a cozy mystery in this type of setting yet. My next read was Seedlings, which is by Curtis Aki and Brianna McCarthy. I think I made it look like a picture book when I was posting about it before. It is not a picture book. It's more like for ages 12 and up, and it has pictures to mark the beginning of each short story, but it's definitely more for like that 7th, 8th grade and up type of reader. So Seedling is just like a collection of short stories based off of Caribbean folklore and fables, and it was such a mixed bag, so it was very different than what I'm used to reading. And we do talk so much about diverse stories and how diverse stories don't just need to read like the black version of popular white stories. So I think if you're looking for something different, this one definitely feels more like stories that I've heard direct from the culture that weren't given like a mainstream twist. And it was just it was very interesting. Light fantasy. I enjoyed the community aspects that were in some of the stories. There were things that were very familiar from observing just by talking to people within my own family and hearing their stories and seeing their ways. Both sides of my family are from the Caribbean, but I haven't gotten to spend like a whole lot of time in the Caribbean. Going next year to Guyana, hopefully. So that'll give me the chance to really spend more time with that side of the family, because most of my time with them has been over the phone. But yeah, I think that people, especially who have spent a lot of time in the Caribbean and are used to like these types of stories, will really enjoy it. My mom does want to read it, so I'm going to pass it along to her. And then I finally got to read the third book in the Sanity and Tallulah graphic novel series. I've been reading it with my little cousin. She and I still need to finish Field Trip. I did finish Field Trip, but it was a little bit harder for her to read because Field Trip was very, very sciencey and very, very dialogue heavy, and I actually liked that Shortcuts had less dialogue. It was a lot faster paced and easier to get through. So I'm like interested in how she'll react to that one. It just follows the girls going on this little mission off their space station to visit another space station for a delivery, and It was nice to see how like the different stations like interacted with each other. And this one I felt was less dialogue heavy and really allowed her illustrations to shine. It very much felt like an episode of a TV show. I think with my copy, I had a physical copy that was gifted to me, and like the first few pages just kind of like fell out. Like the binding was really badly done on that. So, and mine was like a paperback version, so hopefully like the hardcover version doesn't have that problem. But yeah, that kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm like, it would cost me the amount of the book itself to buy the glue to fix that. So that's everything that I read. It was a mixed bag of a month. There were I'd say most of the books that were like just like okay reads for me. Not like so much like 5 stars that absolutely like I would find myself rereading. I'm already not a big rereader to begin with, so if I reread, the book had to have like done something for me. And like I said, Don't Go Baking My Heart was really the standout for me during the month. I am really looking forward to April reading. It's going to be a more contemporary and romance heavy month. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, say subscribe for similar videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!